Some interesting ideas have been floated on how the EU could develop a more structured, tiered approach to EU membership. The idea of a new tier of membership has been proposed, and press reports have even raised the possibility of the UK being a new third tier member. These ideas have been set out in a new report. This is the result of the French and German foreign ministers convening a working group of 12 independent experts to produce some ideas in order to generate debate and discussion. I think this is a really healthy thing to do. There's not enough debate around how the EU should look in the future. I think if there had been more debate prior to the Brexit referendum, the UK decision may well have been different. My gut feeling is that there was a fairly high level of support for UK membership of the customs union and single market. The problem for many Brits, including some Remainers, is that the UK never really bought into the vision of a United States of Europe. Ever closer political union has always been a problem for the UK over the past decades. So the idea of debating what a future structure of the EU looks like and being specific about different scenarios is a really good one. The report looks at many ideas around the rule of law and possible institutional changes that would strengthen the EU, enabling it to run more effectively and efficiently. Interesting ideas include not allowing the number of MEPs to increase, so that the number of MEPs from existing members would be reduced if new members join, and extending qualified majority voting to improve decision making. I think some of the most interesting ideas in the report relate to being more specific in the different levels of integration or association that different countries can have with the European Union. Currently, the EU has two tiers of membership. First, there's an inner circle with the deepest level of integration, border-free travel under the Schengen Agreement and adoption of the euro. The second tier is full EU membership without being in the Schengen zone or the euro. This is where the UK sat when it was a member of the EU. The report proposes the idea of a third tier. The new third tier would be composed of associate members, centred around membership of the single market. This perhaps could be compared to the European Economic Area or the bilateral agreements that Switzerland has with the EU. EEA countries and Switzerland are in the single market, and this is basically what this third tier would be. A fourth tier is also around political cooperation, which could involve structured bilateral agreements with the EU. This wouldn't involve any legal obligations. So the full EU is shown by the solid red line here, i.e. the first two tiers. The dotted red line shows the frontier up to where EU would apply, i.e. in a third tier. Let's be clear about the focus of these proposals. I don't think that this is about tidying up the myriad of agreements that the EU has with different non-EU European countries. Although in principle this wouldn't be a bad idea, that the EEA Switzerland type arrangements were harmonised, but I think this is unlikely from a practical and political point of view. These proposals are also nothing to do with providing a way back into closer integration for the UK. What they are to do with is enlargement of the EU. There's currently 8 candidate countries negotiating membership and 2 additional countries likely to join the list. The report is clear that the EU just isn't ready to admit 10 new members. Tier 3 is actually about creating a new level of membership in inverted commas that would in fact be a stepping stone to becoming a full member. Associated membership would not give a vote in decision making, nor would it give a right to have MEPs in the European Parliament. Although it has similarities to the arrangements that Norway and Switzerland have with the EU, the difference would be that associate membership would be the same for everyone. I'm guessing that the urgency of this is really to do with Ukraine. There's a lot of political pressure to let Ukraine join the EU, but there are many reasons why this is unlikely to happen quickly. Even if Ukraine can make all the necessary preparations, it would still be difficult for Ukraine to queue jump in terms of the other candidate countries. This associate membership, a third tier of membership, allows the EU to formally welcome new countries as a type of member, but without actually giving them full membership. From the associate member's point of view, it's a clear step towards full membership. However, perhaps it reduces the speed at which full membership would have taken place without this intermediate stage. Once the EU has given a country this form of membership status, the urgency is reduced, and the EU is likely to be very strict as to who actually can become a full member in terms of meeting all the necessary conditions. It also means a loss of sovereignty for the associate members, as they'll have no formal role in adopting new legislation, and yet they will be bound by all new EU legislation and subject to the full jurisdiction of the European Court. The fourth tier makes sense seen in the enlargement context. It's a first step for any country in the process of applying to join the EU. The EU has political agreements with many non-EU European countries, so like the third tier, this is nothing new really, but it would allow some common elements to bilateral agreements with countries deciding to participate in this fourth tier. Just to make a quick comment about the UK, we can be crystal clear here. This offers nothing new. Although the UK wouldn't be excluded from becoming an associate member, I personally don't think this is a good idea. I wouldn't support being a member of something where the UK had to accept legislation that it has no role in adopting. For the foreseeable future, the UK rejoining the EU or joining the single market or customs union is not going to happen. The UK will continue to evolve its relationship within the EU within the Trade and Cooperation Agreement. These new proposals are therefore irrelevant to the UK. However, I think these ideas are useful. The proposals do contain a useful way of the EU committing to future members and providing a clear stepping stone without any of the 8 to 10 candidate countries actually becoming a member for the foreseeable future. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you considered liking or subscribing. Thanks for watching. See you next time.